Please make me a fan.
What the fuck?
Can you say make me a fan?
No, make a fan.
Make me a fan?
What the fuck is this? Make you fan. Make you fan.
If you want a cookie, you have to say one time, make me a fan podcast.
Make me a fan podcast.
Awesome. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Make Me a Fan podcast. I am your host, Sean McGregor, and I'm joined, as always, with my brother and producer, TJ. Say hi, TJ.
How's it going, everybody?
Got him a mic now so he can add his 2 cents in every now and then. This is a very special episode of the Make Me a Fan podcast. It is the first ever MMAFP Fight Club. Ooh, let's get a special music for this episode and future episodes. I guess I should start out by introducing our combatants. To my left is my good friend, a musician and a Superman fanatic, Joseph Hurricane Koehn. How you doing, Joe?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. To my right, my buddy, an actor, a Snapchat sensation, Joshua Die Hard Hall. Hi,
What's up?
Josh.
I'm good, man. How are you?
I am great. I'm
Awesome.
excited.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad that you guys are both here. Glad we can do this special episode. I'm going to start out by reading the rules of the MMAFP Fight Club. Rule 1, when I talk, you stop talking. Rule 2, when I talk, you stop talking. Rule number 3, only one person talks at a time. Rule 4, no personal insults. Joe.
Okay.
But you're not drinking, so you don't have to worry about that. You'll be nice. Rule number 5, promote this podcast on all your social media accounts once I post it on Thursday. Rule 6, statements can be fact-checked. TJ will look shit up. Liars will be punished. Rule number 7, let's have fun. That's what podcasts are, right? It's just
Fun.
It's just buddies talking. I know,
Yeah.
Joe, you're not really that familiar with podcasts, right?
Not really, no.
Well, it's just basically people talking. And today, we're going to be talking about Superman.
Yeah.
Josh, I know you're very familiar with podcasts. You have your own podcast, or
Yeah.
you're part of one.
Yeah, I'm part of another podcast called Never Smith Podcast. We
Yeah.
talk about Hollywood, wrestling, stuff like that.
Okay, and that's on iTunes,
Mhm.
SoundCloud.
SoundCloud, iTunes, a few episodes on YouTube.
Yeah, I think I listened to a couple parts of them on YouTube. You guys do pretty long ones, don't you?
It gets pretty long, yeah. We kind of do drain out conversations
Yeah.
sometimes. I think you've heard one or two because I know you had some comments on our Dawn of Justice review.
I might have. I don't remember. I was probably drunk when I did it.
You did. There was some typing you did on Facebook, I think it was,
Okay.
and you said you had some rebuttals because I didn't give it such a great review.
Yeah.
And we could definitely chime in that in a little bit when we get into our Superman chit chat.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what we do, and we talk about WWE, NXT, stuff like that too.
All right, cool. Yeah, we're actually doing the Royal Rumble podcast later, which will come out before this episode. So hopefully you guys already listened to that. Hopefully we're funny as shit watching the Rumble. So, yes, the MMA Fight Club, MMAFP Fight Club. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves, an argument to the death. I will try to stay impartial. I will be the guest referee. I will ensure order. Brody. God damn it. I demand order in my court, Brody. Anyway,
Brody wants to play.
yeah, we have a guest in the studio, so Brody is trying to get he's got his bear over there. All right, anyway, Brody, you need to go upstairs. I'm going to edit this part out.
Yeah.
Brody, lay down, now. Lay down. What did I say? Brody, come here.
Was he crying?
Lay down. All right, gentlemen, our Fight Club topic today is basically who's the better Superman? You guys both kind of have opposing views on Superman. Josh, I know you're a big fan of the Christopher Reeves and Brandon Roth. Joe, I know you're also a fan of Christopher Reeves, but you're a fan of the Henry Cavill, the new Superman.
Yeah.
We all know Superman's story. Alien from Krypton, planet gets blown up, comes to Earth. The Earth's yellow sun gives him superpowers, and he puts on tights and shoots laser beams out of his eyes and flies around kicking ass. Is that about right, Joe?
Sure.
That's
parts of it. Yeah.
That's the Clips Notes, basically.
Yeah.
So
Your basic points.
All right, let's. You guys want to do paper, rock, scissors to go first, or one of you guys want to succeed to the other person?
You go first. And maybe I can base
Okay.
what I'm going to say off of what you say.
Sure. So just talk about the basic points of Superman.
Wrong.
Or...
No, I'm just kidding.
we got Judge Judy over here. Holy crap.
Yeah. Why don't we start with the Christopher Reeves? What do you like so much about that version of Superman?
I think with the Christopher Reeves Superman, and it's almost remarkable because that was the first feature Superman, on the big screen, 2-hour movie, and whatnot.
Yeah.
They nailed it the very first try. And it just captures what Superman was supposed to be. It's he's the all-American Boy Scout. That's pretty much what Superman is. He's happy. He's happy to put himself second. He will go out of his way to help you, and that's what he's taught. Especially throughout the film. His father Jor-El in the movie when he discovers the Fortress of Solitude and excuse me if I'm getting too ahead of myself here,
no.
But when he's in the Fortress of Solitude and he's
spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert if you haven't seen
From
it.
the 1982 spoiler alert.
That's
78.
Oh, 78. Oh,
yeah.
Geez, damn.
I was gonna mention that too, but I didn't want to do that. But when he's talking to Marlon Brando, the Fortress, they lay out the ground rules in what Superman. This is your responsibilities.
Okay.
Even explains why he has to keep a secret identity.
Okay.
It's very important. Because that also not only does that create important elements for the character, it also creates a handicap. And it actually becomes a peril towards the end of the film. Spoiler: when the earthquake happens and Lois Lane is somewhat killed. And
was that the first one when he had to fly around the Earth and turn back time?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, that was the first one. I thought it was the one with Richard Pryor.
No,
that was the third one.
They got that campy that early in the movies.
It's what's kind of funny is you mentioned the Richard Pryor thing. It's the same thing with Batman. Batman Forever was the third one.
Yeah.
The one with Richard Pryor was the third movie for Superman.
Oh.
That's studio magic. It's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what's remarkable about that particular film, especially when he says, truth, justice, and the American way.
Mm-hmm.
I
thought that was Hulk Hogan that said that.
Hogan kind of said that too.
Okay.
Well, his was saying your prayers and
take your vitamins and make sure you're not being videotaped while you have sex with someone's wife.
Yeah, your buddy's wife. And stuff like that. Yeah. But that's pretty much the basic idea of the Christopher Reeve Superman, which was also directed by Richard Donner. And just overall, in a nutshell, they got it right the very first try. That's usually like a hard shot. Like you can think of something like, say, like Fantastic Four.
Yeah, they haven't done that right yet.
Yeah, exactly. There's some characters they have a hard time with, and this one they got it right. Also, too, it's also something where it's where like a lot of these superhero films are kind of cursed when they say like there's too much studio interference.
Yeah.
There was none of that. It's the same thing with the Tim Burton Batman. Mm-hmm. It was all more of creative, based on the writers and the director and the actor.
Okay. Yeah. What do you think, Joe? You're a fan of...
Well, I think saying they got it right the first time is pretty wrong, but...
Okay, how did they get it wrong?
Okay, well, I grew up with Christopher Reeve as Superman, and it's very nostalgic to me.
Yeah.
And one of my first introductions to Superman besides the cartoon. But besides the look and the costume at the time that he had in the comics, that's not Superman to me personally. I mean,
what was Superman for you?
For one, Lex Luthor doesn't have curly hair, and I know in the movie he wore a wig for some reason, which the real reason was that Gene Hackman refused to cut his hair. That's the real reason he wore a wig in the movie, so they had to write around it. That's not from the comics.
Yeah.
Lex Luthor wasn't into real estate. that
what
was
about-
his whole thing in the movie, was getting beachfront property, I guess.
What about
And-
Superman, though? How is Superman different?
I'll talk about
Okay,
that.
sorry.
He's got bullet points.
I didn't like the whole Lex Luthor's biggest thing was, I'll be the greatest criminal of all time, because that's not the way Lex Luthor is. He's more like a mob boss, you know. He's got.
And he
all these-
becomes president eventually.
in other incarnations, yeah.
Okay.
Christopher Reeve was a great actor, and he did the best with what he could, but I didn't like any of the writing. It's like a cartoon to me. Like, when you watch the cartoons back in the day, it was like they just made a movie version of that, so...
So you're saying that more like it wasn't based on like the comics of the time. It was more based on like the early introduction of Superman from the comics, like the,
like the
was it the
Super Friends
Golden Age?
cartoons.
Yeah.
It was like they grabbed that Superman, and, you know, but they didn't get that Lex Luthor, because he was cooler in the cartoon. But that's just my
I never
opinion.
liked the cartoons of any of this stuff.
Well,
like
I mean,
Batman,
the
Superman,
cartoons were
all
good
that.
for a 5-year-old, but then they made a movie, and that's basically all they did was...
basically a
it's
live
just-
action cartoon.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's, you know...
How is he different in the comics?
Um,
Like what?
it was just more realistic in the comics as far as a comic could go. I mean,
Like
like I
what-
said, Lex Luthor was more of a mob boss. You know, he did illegal things, but no one could pin it on him because he had people working underneath him.
Yeah.
And they weren't like henchmen, and he wasn't the greatest criminal. You know, he was, to the public, he was a businessman.
Yeah, great guy.
And how could anyone, you know, how are they saying I did this? There's no proof, and then there would be no proof, you know. And Superman was always, you know, biting his fingers because he can't pin anything on him.
Was
You know,
there?
and that's what made him a really great, brilliant criminal or villain or whatever, because he always got away with things. No one could bust him, you know.
What kind of Superman story arcs were there before the movie came out?
There was the one that got famous after Man of Steel, where Superman actually killed General Zod.
That was
one.
that was
one
a
of
big-
the first comics I ever had.
that was one of the things that you hated about Man of Steel, was that he killed General Zod, right?
No, I never had a problem
Oh,
with
I
him
thought-
killing. No, I never had a problem with him killing Zod, because he kills Zod in Superman 2.
Yeah.
But of course, kind of to piggyback what Joe was saying, it was kind of more of a cartoony way. It was almost a Looney Tunes
Okay.
fashion, because he rids of their powers in Superman 2
Mhm.
and throws Zod and the other characters into a giant pit, which was in the Fortress of
But
Solitude.
there was an alternate ending where they showed the police taking General Zod and his henchmen away.
But we're talking about theatrical
they don't want-
DVD release.
Because it
type
was like a
stuff,
cartoon,
you know.
basically.
Yeah, but the theatrical release is Zod fell into a pit
Okay.
and went to
But
a
he
pit of
didn't-
nothing.
But he didn't have powers. So
He didn't have
Superman
powers.
didn't really have to do anything.
No.
He could have just handcuffed him and took him in jail.
Well, Lois was watching, so...
But
Yeah.
it just goes to show Superman's
yeah,
a dick.
Superman's trying to get brownie points with the girls, so
Also-
he's gonna pick him up. And
Now I'm starting to remember things.
Good.
When in the comics could Superman take his S off and throw it at people and have
Yeah.
it saran wrap?
Well, when you're doing a movie, and now, granted, when he took his S off, that's a sequel. And granted, when you are doing a movie adaptation of a character, people are going to throw their own 2 cents into something.
Was that
and
part
it's-
2?
That is
yeah,
part
that was
2.
part 2. Part 1 and 2 were filmed at the same time. And another thing from that same scene that I still don't understand to this day, and I keep trying to watch it and trying to understand if I'm hearing it wrong. But you know that scene where they're all disappearing and reappearing?
Yeah.
And Superman says, "We used to play this in high school all the time. Zod was never really good at it."
How did
So Superman went to high school with Zod on Krypton after it exploded.
But they didn't have powers on Krypton.
Well, they did. They didn't have powers
Well-
on Krypton. He wasn't there in high school.
Well,
he
no,
went to
no.
high school with Zod.
I mean, the movie, that part, is obviously kind of a flaw and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But once again, that goes to, an adaptation of a director trying to come up with ideas to make it different from the first movie. Granted, too, there was a little flu bug for part 2 because they had, and you probably know this, 2 different directors.
Yeah.
Richard Donner was fired eventually and reshot by Lester, and everyone knows Lester, and he did the whole of part 3.
Okay.
And that's a whole other story because that was complete shit from the
That's probably
overall.
my favorite Superman of the Christopher Reeves was the one with Richard Pryor.
It's
Is it really?
really entertaining.
Yeah, because it's funny as shit. If you look at it as a comedy, and I think Richard Pryor is hilarious in that he can do no wrong.
Yeah.
And And then you get the drunk Bizarro Superman, which is probably my favorite scene.
It's funny you say that too, because I say the same thing in a way, like with Batman Forever and Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
I say if you watch Batman and Robin as a kids movie,
oh yeah,
it's a great movie.
Those are just basically commercials.
Yeah,
for kids' toys.
For toys.
I know we're going off topic, but
that's totally fine. Go.
I feel that way about Batman Forever, where when I watch it, I'm like, at least it's entertaining.
Yeah.
And I have fun watching it. But Batman and Robin, I feel embarrassed when I watch it.
I see, that's totally off topic. I want to get back to your Lex Luthor topic too.
Okay.
Batman and Robin, I always felt like I never was disappointed with Batman and Robin. I always had fun watching it, just because it was so campy. And sometimes you can enjoy campy shit.
Yeah, like what we have playing in the background, the Adam West.
Exactly. I mean,
so yeah, you can find even the worst movie can like. People like Sharknado. How the fuck do you like Sharknado?
People like the first two Fantastic Four that came out like 10 years ago.
I like those. Those weren't bad. The second one was terrible. I like the first one.
Yeah, and that's campy as hell.
Yeah.
But the one thing I want to go back to your Lex Luthor topic. The one thing is you talked about, like the Gene Hackman version was totally off and stuff like that. There was a documentary when Superman Returns came out. They came out with a documentary called Up, Up and Away, and it's about the history of Superman, both comics, cartoons, and the movies. They talked about like Luthor's history too, and Luthor went through tons of changes. Like you mentioned, running for president or being president, right?
Yeah.
He was president when he first started. He was a mad scientist. Yeah. He was more of a Dr. Evil type character. He wasn't even in politics or a mob or whatever. He was just a mad guy that wanted to take control of the world. But that was like old 1930s type thinking.
Yeah.
So there was tons of different types of Luthors and stuff like that. And once again, it goes back to whoever's behind the realm, whether it's a camera or you're drawing pictures, it's whatever idea you have for this character. It was the first movie at the same time, and Luthor's idea in that first movie isn't actually that bad. He wanted to create land because he wanted to take over pretty much part of the United States. He wanted to create his own continent. That's pretty much what he wanted to do. And the only drawback, the only silly part, I would say, is he did the James Bond villain mistake by revealing his plans to the hero. He already knew, so Superman's going to go and spoil his plans when he escaped. But other than that, I mean, it's he's trying to take over land and take over the world. And if you look at Luthor back in the 30s and 40s, that's exactly what he did. He tried to take over the world. He was a mad scientist. He would use hot lava and pits and rockets back in those days.
So yeah, this movie was more of a 1940s movie.
Yeah.
And that's the problem is that movie came out in 1978 and Lex Luthor was already established as like a mob boss. So I mean, yeah, they can take from when he first started. They could have had him be a mad scientist, or I really think what they did was they just took from the cartoons. Because he was really popular with, Super Friends, Legion of Doom, and all that stuff. That was really popular at the time, and they were just like, we're making a movie, so this is the Lex Luthor, this is the Superman. And I think that's what they did. So it was more geared towards kids, I think.
Well, comic books probably should
And
be.
that's why I liked it, and it has nostalgia. But now looking back, after reading comics all these years, I'm like, that's not Lex Luthor. That is Superman. Christopher Reeve was a really good actor, and the costume was perfect for that time. But the writing, in my opinion, I didn't like the writing in that movie at all.
I thought it was fine, and I mean, this comment probably goes in common with what you're saying about the look of him, because when you look at the old school comic books, as you were mentioning, it's like there's pictures of Superman with the American flag, old school comics, and with an eagle on his shoulder. There's even scenes where he's fighting Nazis and he's dumping Nazi tanks and stuff like that.
That would have been cool in a movie, wouldn't it?
That would have been cool.
That would have been awesome.
That would have been cool.
Fighting ISIS or the Russians or something.
That'd be great now, yeah. But I think you also got to look at the point where when you're trying to come up with a concept before the cameras are even rolling. This movie, you're trying to come up with a concept. Who is Superman going to fight? And that's always been an argument, in my opinion, for the last maybe 15, 20 years. When you're trying to create a Superman film, it's like, who is he going to go against? Luthor, that's his Joker.
Yeah.
So obviously he's going to be top of the list, and then what's he going to do? If he's a mob boss, like if Superman's going to go against the Goodfellas, there's no match.
That would be a real interesting movie to me.
If he goes against the Goodfellas, a total mob.
Yeah, straight up like Black Mask Batman.
See, that's why if you're gonna have a movie, sorry, I didn't mean to talk when you're talking.
It's okay. No, but I forgive you.
What they should do in a movie though is Lex Luthor should be the brain, so then there should be someone else that he's the brain behind.
He's a puppet
You know what I mean?
master.
Like, yeah.
But that's what he was in part 2.
Yeah. That was,
Well, they actually brought in someone in part 2 for Superman to punch.
Yeah.
Because you can't have
That
a
was
Superman
Zod
movie
and
and
without
yet they
punches.
didn't really punch.
Yeah.
They like threw each other in the Coca-Cola signs. But
Either way, I mean, he fought somebody.
Yeah.
But it's exactly what you guys were saying about being the puppet master.
Mhm.
That's what part 2 was. Luthor came in. He waved this little flag of his, right? And they were in the White House. And he, in a weird way, Luthor did. He talked him into, working together.
and once again, he wanted Australia because he's in the real estate.
Australia. Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on to the Brandon Roth version of Superman Returns. I'll let you start this time. Give me your thoughts.
Oh yeah, and I was actually going to bring that up too, anyways, because when they were talking about Superman Returns coming out, and it was supposed to come out in like '96, so I was sitting there every year, when's it going to come out? When's it going to come out? And I think there was even talk around '99 about Nicolas Cage. I didn't know about the whole Superman Lives thing.
Yeah.
I just knew Nicolas Cage might be Superman. But I remember watching the movie Seven, and I was thinking, this guy would be an awesome Lex
Kevin
Luthor.
Spacey.
Yeah, Kevin Spacey would be an awesome Lex Luthor.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just had him act like Gene Hackman. Like, he would have been an awesome Lex Luthor, but they just said,
If you would have done the more...
they were trying to do like a sequel to part 2.
Sure.
So he basically had to be Gene Hackman.
Right.
And then Brandon Roth had to be Christopher Reeves. Like, they didn't want like a new entity. They just wanted part 3 the way it should have been, without Richard Pryor, or whatever.
Yeah. Right.
And I didn't like the costume. It looked like a scuba outfit with a poncho hanging off the back. And then the whole kid. He had a kid with Lois, and
we all know that's not physically possible.
Superman
thanks to
didn't even
Mallrats.
get his powers till he's a teenager, and this kid's like 5, throwing a piano around or whatever.
And he's a half-breed, too. He's not
Yeah.
even full Kryptonian.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's nothing. I remember when me and you went to see that movie, and I brought a bottle of wine into the movie theater, and I said, I'm going to take a sip for everything I don't like, and I passed out.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Okay.
But, all right, what's your rebuttal for that?
I love Superman Returns. The movie's been out for over a decade now.
Yeah.
So at the time when it first came out, I was definitely one of its big fans. I would wave the flag for that movie and stuff like that. But I mean nowadays I'll definitely say it's not perfect.
Doesn't hold up.
As far as what like
some movies, they just don't hold up 10 years later, right? Like, I'm trying to think of an example.
it holds up for like special effects and the look and nostalgia, as Joe was talking about. It definitely holds up for that. And yeah, it was definitely modeled to be a sequel from part 2 with Reed and Donner.
I think if they just started from scratch, like Kevin Spacey's Lex Luthor, Brandon Roth is Superman, and have a new story, I think it could have.
Well, that was something. I'm glad you kind of mentioned the 1997 announcements and stuff like that, because that was originally Nicolas Cage. In a weird way, that was going to be that was going to start from scratch. They couldn't decide if it was going to be a sequel from the old movies or if they were going to do like a complete reboot. Mm-hmm. But as time progressed, and when before the whole thing got torn apart, they were looking to do just a complete like restart with Nicolas Cage and Tim Burton behind it, and then Kevin Spacey. I always thought it was Jack Nicholson at the time. That's because I thought I saw Jack Nicholson in an article as Luthor. But yeah, it was Spacey the whole time.
Yeah, that was after he did Joker.
Yeah.
That would have
And
been
I just remember seeing 7, and I was just like, this guy's going to be an awesome Lex Luthor.
I thought.
And then they had him
Spacey
wearing
did
wigs.
A fine job.
They had him wearing wigs again. Because Gene Hackman did. Because one guy refused to shave his head, another actor had to wear a wig for a character who doesn't wear wigs.
It's a step, but that's a small nitpick. That's a small piece of the thing, though. But like, the whole going back to the 1997 Superman announcements and stuff like that, they were looking to do a complete redo, a reboot, if you will, for today's standards. And then that thing just it goes back to what we were saying before. What is Superman gonna do in the movie? Who is he gonna fight? It was originally gonna be the death of Superman and then the resurrection of Superman, and that's what they were gonna do. And so they were gonna do the resurrection of Superman. But as time progressed, directors were falling out. Tim Burton fell out. They actually were to bring in McG, who did Terminator Salvation.
Yeah.
He was going to direct it. I think Brett Ratner from Rush Hour was going to do it. They went through all these directors, and everyone just kind of fell out. Eventually, Bryan Singer signed on. I think what's great about Superman Returns is it's great, and it's also a little bit of a curse, is the fact that they played it safe. Bryan Singer, I heard this on another podcast. It's like a love letter to Richard Donner, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's like, well, let's just play it safe. Those first two movies are pretty good, minus the flaws that Joe was mentioning before. They're really good. That first movie is still really good, and so it's like, let's just go back then. It worked. It still worked.
Yeah, they basically just tried doing a remake/sequel.
It was a remake/sequel. Perfect way to do it. And so
with a horrible costume.
Brendan Routh, I thought he was a pretty good Superman, but it's not really Brendan Routh that I like about Superman Returns. I just like the overall look of it. It was great action scenes. I hear a lot of people talking about this. I even saw Kevin Smith a couple of times on various podcasts talking about how he didn't punch anybody or whatever. Yeah. But that airplane scene is classic. It's a very good scene.
He did pick up an island.
Picked up an island.
The airplane scene is probably the only one that I actually like. Yeah. Like, when I watch that scene, I'm like, why can't the rest of the movie be like this?
But it's not. Sean just mentioned the island scene, which I call a continent.
Yeah.
He picked up a whole continent.
Yeah,
I did like where he was off into space.
He was stabbed with kryptonite, and he was able to lift up a whole island made of kryptonite and fly it into space.
That's amazing, because what you did is you put trial and error right on top of Superman.
But now the fanboys today are complaining that Superman had that spear of kryptonite when he stabbed Doomsday. How could he lift that? But an island.
I'm sure we'll get into that massacre in a little while. But but the whole point of that particular scene, picking up the continent and being stabbed and whatnot, and it was all kryptonite. The island was made out of kryptonite.
Yeah.
You're putting trial and error on top of Superman. You're putting all these obstacles on his shoulders that he has to defeat, and he defeated it, and he fell to Earth. And it was also paying an homage to the death of Superman, which they originally wanted to do.
Yeah.
He falls
and what brought him back
Earth.
To life? The little kid kissing his cheek?
No, he came back to life because he had time to sleep. I mean, that's what pretty much
brought him.
He had sun,
In the hospital.
He was in a hospital bed.
Oh, he was in a hospital?
Yeah, they had him in the hospital.
I've seen that movie once with you in the theater, and that's all I've seen.
That's all you needed?
Yeah.
I bought the DVD at the time. And
the only part
I wanted to bring up, too, in Superman Returns,
breaking two rules
why
of
did Lex Luthor try to make an island full of kryptonite?
It's once again, world domination.
No, real estate.
Real estate.
He said it in the movie. It's real estate. That's all Lex Luthor cares about is real estate.
That's fine.
Apparently.
That's fine, but that was his scheme of things. But once again, the whole point of the real estate thing is just, it's the character, what they had,
He thought people were going to pay him money to sit on these rocky crystal islands.
I always took it as world domination. I took it as that. I took it as world domination. It's another way for him to try to take over the world. And if Superman's going to try to take that over, he's going to, he won't have a chance. The whole thing's made out of kryptonite.
What do you got there, Keach?
According to Luthor from the movie, he wants to create a new continent modeled after Krypton that he can shape to his own image while triggering massive tsunamis that will wipe out the nations of the world and force humanity to turn to him for survival.
Okay.
That's brilliant.
In the movie, he mentions being able to sell land.
Well, that's basically his plan. He wants to make an island version of Krypton and then destroy the rest of the world, so everyone has to come live in his Lex Luthor
He's
land.
the greatest criminal mind of all time.
And it's not just that, though, but what he was just saying, too, was the fact that the world will be forced to go to Luthor for fresh land. It's almost like that Kevin Costner movie, Waterworld, right?
Yeah.
Where, you're forced to go to him.
Which was a terrible
See, that's another thing
movie.
going back to the Donner film, though. Lex Luthor in the comics he had the giant skyscraper and he's the big businessman. How come he was living in the sewers or the subway station?
Yeah.
I never understood that either.
Well, I mean, that's a hideout. I mean, back in those times, and this is coming out during the Bond era. I mean, Bond movies are still kind of big, I guess.
Yeah.
I was never really big on them. But Bond movies always had these hideouts type of thing.
Oh, yeah.
And Luthor had hideouts in the comics
I'm just saying,
stuff like that,
That's to me one of the biggest difference with Luthor was he was, the public saw him as a respectable businessman, and all his dirty dealings were behind the scenes. And he had this giant tower that said LexCorp, and In the movie, he was like hiding out in a subway station.
There comes to a point on that though. It's just the fact that, and I know Sean, you kind of mentioned it's kind of cool to see Superman go against the Goodfellas, and you're talking about a scummy, businessman type of thing. It gets to a point where it's just like we probably have to wait a while until we actually get to some kind of conflict between Superman and Luthor. It's like we're gonna watch all these dealings, all this talk. It's the same complaint that Star Wars Phantom Menace got. There was a lot of talking before we got to a really good duel.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that you're probably, going into.
I think if they did the, Goodfellas Superman, it would be cool to, you don't need Superman in every scene. You could use Clark Kent investigating to try to get into it. While, meanwhile, these Goodfellas, they're doing whatever bad shit they're doing, but they're also got a big bad guy that Superman can punch later.
Like a giant spider?
No spiders.
Like Parasite or
Brainiac,
Bizarro.
Yeah, maybe they're trying to clone Superman.
Yeah. That would be cool. In a weird way, like you mentioned, Part 3, we kind of got that, and
and that disappointed me so much as a kid because I wanted to see drunk Superman versus Superman, not drunk Superman versus
Clark Kent.
But I get it. It was supposed to be like a metaphor, kind of.
Yeah, it's like him fighting in his mind.
Yeah.
But at the same time, for Part 3, that's like the best scene that everyone seems.
They should have cut. They should have kept cutting the scene to have people looking and seeing him punching himself.
Like Fight Club.
Just beating the crap out of himself.
That'd be awesome.
That would be kind of weird.
Someone needs to CGI that on YouTube. That'd be cool.
What's kind of funny when we talk about Part 3 too is the fact that I heard this on a podcast probably 2 years ago. Part 3 was originally supposed to be Brainiac too. It was because it's all computer.
Supercomputer.
It's all supercomputer stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was budget reasons or maybe they just thought it was silly. Because they weren't catering to comic book movies in those days.
Yeah, they didn't give a shit about comic book fans. They just wanted to sell toys to kids.
Toys. It was just mainly Superman.
Yeah.
It wasn't really, the whole concept of the universe.
When did Part 3 and 4 come out? Early 90s?
Part 4 was the early 90s. I don't know the exact
Part 3
year.
is 83.
Yeah, Part 3 was 83.
Wow, and then when did Part 4 come out?
87.
No, it was in the 90s.
No, that was 87.
Was it?
Quest for Peace?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was 87.
Yeah, 87.
87?
Oh, I thought it was much older.
And then Batman didn't come out until 89.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and then Reeve had his accident in 94, 95.
And Marvel didn't have shit back then.
Marvel was bankrupt by the 90s. The only thing Marvel had was the cartoons. That's the only thing that was
X-Men cartoons and Spider-Man.
That's a whole other subject, but that's why Sony took over X-Men and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
They sold it. They couldn't afford to hold it up.
Oh, you got to pay rent somehow.
Yeah, you do.
All right, so let's move on to the next Superman one, which you, from what I gathered, I could be wrong, you did not really like Man of Steel or the Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Yeah.
I guess we'll just stick mostly on Man of Steel for now.
Yeah, we could work Dawn of Justice a little bit in there. But
yeah, we'll move on to that. But so tell me your major complaints on Man of Steel.
My major complaints, when I first saw the movie, and I wish I had that bottle of champagne or what the heck you had there. 'Cause I would
a box of wine, probably.
A box of wine,
no,
whatever.
we just put wine in a water bottle.
Oh yeah.
I usually grab the Andre champagne sometimes for celebrations. But my biggest complaint on Man of Steel overall was the editing of the film, which was a big Chris Nolan thing. Which was pretty much, to give you a really good bird's eye view, because I'm assuming you guys see Man of Steel multiple times, is the fact that when you're going from Krypton, which I thought the Krypton scenes were amazing.
Yeah.
I thought those were awesome. But then once Clark is being shot off into Earth, and once we get to Earth, he's already an adult. And then he's on the ship, and the ship, shit's happening, and then we edit again to him as a kid with Kevin Costner. And then we edit again to the middle of the snowbanks with Lois and whatever the heck they're doing.
Yeah, they instead of starting from the start and going all the way to the end, they did the origin story in 5-minute increments every 20 minutes.
I hate that because a really good thing with me though, it's like as a writer and filmmaker myself, is if I'm writing something, right, I get really enamored in awe in a scene.
Mm-hmm.
A really good thing is, one scene I thought they did really well is when they're talking about the spaceship that Kevin Costner had like in a basement or like whatever, and then he says the line, "You are my son." It's such an emotional scene. It's really well shot, really well acted. I thought the actors were great in the entire movie. But then it cuts. You're getting like sucked into an emotional scene. You know, it's like watching like a different kind of movie. And it cuts, and you're like, "Fuck, what, man?" It's almost like you're with your dream girl, and she kind of cuts you off and kicks you out of the car. It's literally like that, and I'm sure we've all been there before.
I don't know if it's literally like that.
You know, it's.
What do you think about the?
Well, I know you're supposed to be biased, but when he brought
unbiased
or unbiased or whatever
fair.
you are,
I'm fair.
Yeah.
I'm fair.
But when he started talking about how they cut it, I remembered what you were talking about. That came to my mind because that's what he liked a lot about it.
Yeah, that was.
I'm glad they didn't just start from he got to Earth and now he's a baby growing up. And
retell the same thing that we've heard for the past 20 years.
Yeah.
Retell that. Take the first hour of the story before he even becomes Superman. I personally did really like how they edited it. I was like, you get the little 5-second clip that goes, or 5-minute clip that goes with whatever was leading up to it, and then you move on to the next thing. You don't need to spend the first 45 minutes of the movie having him be a kid going to high school. I watched 10 years of that in Smallville. I don't need that again.
Yeah, well, and that's where I'm kind of like probably, the minority, I guess you could say, is because I was not a big fan of Smallville, so I never got attached to it. I seen like a couple episodes of the first season. I thought it was okay, but then when I saw Clark fight like Zod and Doomsday on Smallville, I'm like, what the fuck? He just defeated the entire.
Do you want to know why that happened?
Josh, you could tell me.
Okay.
I know the answer.
When Superman Returns came out, they don't want to confuse kids, so they gave Smallville a bunch of rules, like you can't wear the Superman costume, you can't throw a punch,
no
you can't
flights,
be called
no
Superman.
tights.
And I already hated Superman Returns, and I love Smallville, and Superman Returns killed Smallville.
Yeah.
Because that's why he started dressing like the Matrix, and he could only run, and they call him the Blur. That's because of Superman Returns.
No, and I get that. And that documentary I mentioned earlier, they talk about that there was ground rules. And it's the same thing with today. Like, the Flash is not on Justice League. You know, like it's a different.
It's the same guy.
No, it's a different
Barry
guy.
Allen. They're both Barry Allen.
Well, it's both Barry Allen. What I'm saying is it's a different actor.
It'd be like, okay, now you got Barry Allen in the Justice League. All of a sudden, the Flash CW show, they take away his suit and they give him, just a mask across his eyes.
Right. And I hear what you're saying. Well, my point was it's a different actor. It's kind of a different universe.
Yeah.
It's the same Barry Allen. I got you.
Yeah.
But But going back to Man of Steel, though, it was just my thing, and I kind of get what you're saying. It's like we've seen.
Yeah, let me give you an example. What did you think of Deadpool?
I liked Deadpool. I thought that was great.
Did you like how that was edited?
Yeah, I thought that was fine. But that's a whole new character. That's a whole new thing. And also, Deadpool was more of a comedy.
Yeah.
And more of a parody of things. It's a whole different thing. It's like it's a whole different kind of universe. Yeah. Deadpool was a comedy, especially when he says the line, like right in the beginning of the movie when he's on the bridge, and he's referencing Wolverine, but he calls him Liverine.
Yeah.
It's to cue a laugh, and a lot of the movie is to cue a laugh. Comedies, in my opinion, are different than dramas. I would look at Man of Steel, where it had a lot of very good dramatic scenes. I'll even say for the drama, probably even better than the previous Superman films.
Yeah.
Like I said before, very well shot. The actors did a phenomenal job and stuff like that. I thought Russell Crowe was like the best part of the whole movie, in my opinion. But it was just the way it was edited.
Yeah.
Because my whole point, again, is the fact that I get sucked into a scene and you take it away from me. That pissed me off.
You imagine how Deadpool would be if they filmed it from the beginning all the way to the end, how depressing that would be?
That would, but they gave you enough time to cue the laugh.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, if they filmed it with him, just meeting this chick, and then he gets cancer, and then he goes to this thing, like you're 40 minutes into the movie, and you're like, oh my god, I'm gonna fucking cry. Instead, like, I think that was edited good, that they,
But
they had funny parts, and then they would flash back to a sad part.
But, like, even with Deadpool, they actually shot it, from, like, almost like in a way, from beginning to end. There wasn't any mixed zigzag scenes.
Yeah, it was. The whole thing was zigzagged.
Not so much. Well,
I've seen that movie 12 times. It's totally zigzag.
I've seen it twice, so I gotta go back, I guess. But no, I mean, I know it opens up with him already in the outfit and stuff like that, and the big action scene on the bridge. But like, my whole point is, like, for example, to cue a laugh, because the majority of it's a comedy. He makes a masturbation joke when he has the tiny hand, when his hand's cut off, right? Imagine if, like, they're going to cue in the masturbation joke, he's got the little hand, and then we cut. Well, what the fuck?
Well, didn't they do that?
He said...
They move into him masturbating after that? Or?
No, but he makes the references because he's telling the lady to leave.
Yeah.
Because his thing will look a lot bigger with the little tiny hand.
And then they cut it and they went on to something else.
Right. My whole point, though, is what if they cut it in the middle of his dialogue? That's my whole point. That's what they do in Man of Steel.
I don't remember them ever cutting in the middle of dialogue.
Not really in the middle of dialogue. What I'm saying is you have a passionate scene, like I said before, between Kevin Costner and the kid.
Okay, with that scene, okay, he says, "You are my son," and it's all emotional, and then they cut to a different scene. What else could they have done? Like, if it kept going, you just want to see him hug for 10 minutes?
No.
That gets a little creepy. That becomes a totally different movie.
Nobody wants to see them hug for a bunch of minutes and shit like that. And the other part too is the fact that how they made Jonathan Kent such a wacko by saying it's okay for a bus full of kids to die.
No, he said, "I don't know." That's the thing, and I think that made him like a human being, because you got this alien that grew up as your son and you love him, and now he's got these powers, and if the world finds out about it, he's going to be being tested on and get possibly killed. So he's saying, what am I supposed to do, let him die? And I don't know. I don't know what you're supposed to do because...
he said maybe. He's like...
He said maybe, and then he said, I don't... Yeah.
It's like, no. But no rational person would say that.
No, because he doesn't know what he's doing. He's trying to raise an alien that has superpowers.
See, like the previous Jonathan Kent in the old Christopher Reeve film says, you were brought here for a reason. I don't know what that reason is, but you were brought here for a reason. And that's what really humanizes that character in the original movie when the guy has a heart attack and he says the line, "I have all these powers, but I couldn't save him." Where, like in Man of Steel, he dies from a tornado. And as a gag, I actually made an edited video a long time ago for like YouTube or Facebook, whatever, where like in Superman 3 and 4, there's tornado scenes where he scoops in and just it's so silly. It's just it didn't bring in a lot of thought. There wasn't a lot of thought into Man of Steel, in my opinion, because they could have done so many things. And I'm not saying they should have repeated the heart attack for Jonathan Kent. They could have gave him cancer. Superman can't save anybody from cancer.
That's one thing they could actually stick to the comics, because he's alive still in the comics.
Or just keep him alive. Have him be kidnapped. I mean, they could be kidnapped and stuff like that. Like in Spider-Man, the first one with Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
Like the dude gets the ant is kidnapped.
Yeah. Martha got kidnapped.
Martha got kidnapped. It's like, was she kidnapped in Man of Steel or was she kidnapped in
Batman vs Superman?
Yeah. Okay.
But I do have to say that the one thing that I really didn't like about Man of Steel was Jonathan Kent. I actually
I liked it because I'm trying to think, if I found a baby, I didn't know where he came from. First, I think maybe he's from another country or something. Yeah. There's down the street. I got so used to. Hold on, Joe.
I got so used to 10 years of, what's his name, Jonathan Schneider on Smallville.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought, I didn't read much about him in the comics, but I got used to him being, Pa Kent. And it seemed like in Man of Steel, that was the complete opposite of that version. I totally get what you're saying. Like, I wouldn't know what the fuck to do either if I was a parent.
Because okay, if you're a parent and your son has these superpowers and there's a bus going underwater, if he saves all their lives, he could be taken away from you and tested on and murdered. So he's saying, what am I supposed to do?
Well, that's kind of a moral question.
He's being honest with him saying, I don't know what you're supposed to do. Maybe you should have let him die, because then you wouldn't get tested on by the government.
No, but they also know by that point, and especially when he's 16 years old or whatever, they also know by that point, especially if you're able to save a group of kids in a school bus from drowning, the kid's pretty much unstoppable. He's also got other powers.
I don't think they knew that his skin was impenetrable at that point.
I mean,
he could withstand fire.
I don't know, because it goes right to the point where like the scene in Man of Steel, right when it cuts from Krypton to the ship, he saves everybody from that ship. and that's pretty much, and he's still living in Smallville, if I remember correctly, in that scene. So he's discovering his powers, and pretty much if they were to capture him, if you think about it logically, they wouldn't be able to do anything with him unless they discover kryptonite early.
Then I think he'd probably have to go into hiding then.
But now, let's say you're a father, and your son is, completely indestructible or whatever. You don't even know about kryptonite, but you don't want the government to take your kid. You know what I mean? Like,
I think what Joe's trying to say is,
even
like,
if it was,
he wants him to live a normal life. He doesn't want him to have to battle the government and go into hiding for the rest of his life.
Yeah, and I totally get that, but at the same time, it's like, you mentioned being moral.
Yeah.
The moral thing would be to save the kids.
And I think that
would
does
be the
kind
right
of play
thing to do.
into later, when he is faced with the moral decision of, he can't stop Zod without killing him. Like, what do you do in that moral situation?
Right.
So maybe that does play into the overall narrative. Like, he learned the morality, like, from his dad, not knowing the morality. Mm-hmm. So if that makes sense, I don't know.
I kind of follow you. I don't think Man of Steel explained that very well.
Yeah, I just thought of it listening to you guys.
I just see it as, I think he handled it more the way a real life person would. Like a real life person, was it?
With Zod or the bus?
With the bus, I think. Because, I think of someone being in that real situation, they wouldn't say, you were put here for a reason. You know why you're here. Like, they would be like, I don't know what you're supposed to do. I want you here with me. I don't want the government taking you away. Like, I don't know if you're supposed to save him. Like, he was being honest with his son, saying, I don't know what we're supposed to do.
He sounds like an idiot. I think it's more like, it's more like, I don't know. I guess you could say, like, the two Kents are two different people, I guess you could say.
What about this? What if we compare him being Superman as a kid and his dad not knowing how to, deal with that? Let's say it's 1945 and Superman is actually gay, and he came out to his son, or he came out to his dad, and he's like, what do I do, Dad? And his dad loves him. He loves him even though he's gay, but he knows the rest of the society won't accept him being gay, so he's like, I don't know what you should do.
Yeah. Well, that situation's a little different because there were no lives at stake. There was no bus, for someone being gay.
Yeah, but no, in like 1945, you being gay, that's your life.
Yeah.
I think. I probably don't have the time right.
The
not safe to be gay times.
To enter that aspect, in 1945, even though, that was super taboo in those days, right? They still had places to go. They were still bars and there were still hideouts. You had the...
Okay, maybe like 1890 or something. I don't know. Like, back when it was not safe to be gay, not acceptable.
Maybe Clark saw the Final Destination movies. Huh? Like he saved the whole bus, and then all those kids are going to get killed off one by one.
Yep, and then death's going to come to him.
Like a giant tree trunk's coming in or something.
Yeah, he's gonna
Jonathan Kent saw the movies, and he's like,
And he's like, I don't know, you're indestructible.
Shouldn't cheat death, son.
Yeah, death is a son of a bitch.
Right there.
Superman versus Final Destination.
Ooh, yeah. Well, we can actually bring in Death from Bill and Ted Bonus Journey.
Yeah. Wonder if that guy's still alive.
Yeah. We'll get like a stunt double.
Yeah, we'll CGI him in along with Tupac.
Yeah, like with they did with Princess Leia.
Yeah. Are they doing that? I thought they filmed all her scenes.
Yeah. I'm talking about Rogue One.
Oh.
If you guys seen Rogue One?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
No.
Okay, it's a spoiler. Sorry.
No. I'm not a big Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, that's another thing though. I'm just saying they CGI'd.
Wasn't there like Darth and Luke were like friends or something or related?
Well, yeah.
Darth and Luke?
Darth is.
Yeah, they're father.
Wait, are you serious? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, they're father and son.
I know.
Yeah.
I was joking.
Got it.
Oh yeah, well they did that in the last Terminator movie with Arnold. They CGI'd a young Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
I like that movie.
The
last one. Yeah, the last one with Khaleesi. It was basically like an alternate version of the first one.
The concept was okay.
I didn't like the actor who played John Connor, so.
Oh, the dude from Suicide Squad?
Yeah, maybe just because he didn't look like John Connors. Like, we've had the way John Connors looks through the last however many movies, and all of a sudden he looks like Chandler from Friends.
Yeah, he had like a scarred up face and shit, didn't he?
Yeah.
The dude from Suicide Squad was Kyle Reese.
Oh.
Yeah, the Jai Courtney.
Jai Courtney, yeah, he was bad, and I don't even think it was Jai Courtney's fault, because they made him a bumbling fool in that movie.
Yeah.
I mean, there was that scene where like they were around the squat van or whatever like that, and he takes like one hit across the head or something like that. It's just that if you watch the old Kyle Reese in the '80s, it's just like he's slick, he's a soldier, he's there to fight. The new one was just a bumbling.
I remember I watched it one night down here when I was drunk, and I thought it was good. So
maybe it was the alcohol talking.
It could be, but I don't know. I didn't like the two before that, so like I liked the first one. I loved the second one, and then the last one I thought was good.
The second one's such a classic. Yeah, Salvation I thought was okay. I thought Part 3 had some pretty decent action scenes, but
I think Arnold was definitely showing his age in that movie in the third one. You could see like especially the third one. Oh. Where they didn't use CGI.
Oh yeah.
They had him like naked standing there, and he's all like the love handles.
Yeah. That's why the camera was kind of panned upward a little bit more. You know.
That's back before they really knew what CGI was.
He really didn't have the Terminator 2 physique anymore. That was gone.
All right, so I guess we can move on to Dawn of Justice then.
Okay.
Let's see. You went first for last time, didn't you? For
I didn't go first this
time.
time.
Right? Okay. Yeah. Well, all right. What didn't you like about Dawn of Justice?
I didn't like about Dawn of Justice, as far as the Superman aspect, is the fact that it just didn't have any of Superman's elements in there. A lot of things in Dawn of Justice in general was rushed. They had way too much in there, obviously because they're trying to
Did you watch the extended cut?
I didn't really. If I wasn't impressed with the original,
I'm impartial, but if you do watch the extended cut, it does explain a lot more.
Well, here was the stuff I didn't like about the Superman stuff. Like for example, like when he would do the rescues and stuff like that. It was just cut. I mean, it was really good imagery. Like when he saves the little girl from the burning building in some other country, and he's flying down, he's bringing her to the people, and it's a really neat scene. And
it was like the Day of the Dead scene where they all got the makeup on and they all like kind of go over him,
praise him. Praising him. I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah, that was awesome.
But I was really kind of longing for like a scene when Superman would they actually show a scene where they're at the party, and he's like toying with the tie, and then he leaves. It kind of would have been nice to see that classic take the shirt off, reveal the ass.
And possibly have someone say, "That's Superman."
Well,
instead of doing it in super speed without no one seeing it.
Well, he could do it in a back alley or find a little room and then shoot off.
So he's gonna do it to impress Josh. Like that's why he's.
I would have liked it. I would have liked it. I mean,
it goes back to the campy to me. Like just because he doesn't need the S in the hair, that's campy. He doesn't need the red underwear. He doesn't need the change in a phone booth or whatever.
It's part of the dynamic of Superman, but also at the same time, I posted this on Facebook last year. It's when Superman was announced for Supergirl and the TV stuff, going to TV stuff. And this was one of the rare times I was actually rooting for the TV show because I watched it online. I watched the clips on YouTube, and they got it just right. They actually went for the S stuff. The music was very, very cheesy. Lower budget.
CW show.
CW, lower budget, whatever. But they did just that. They went for the run. He took the glasses off, went for the run. And what I loved about that scene so much compared to Dawn of Justice was the fact that it creates some drama into the character. It's like, oh, he's coming. In a weird way, it's kind of like, like you're obviously a horror fanatic, right? In a weird way, it's like the girl is in the house or in the cabin or whatever. She's doing up her hair or she's making popcorn. Yeah. The killer's outside. He's stalking. He's not around yet. It creates a drama. It creates a suspense that, okay, something's about to happen. Now we're waiting for it. It's almost like a countdown.
Okay.
And that's what I liked about it so much with Superman doing that. But no, instead we go to the cut. He toys with the tie. We cut to something else. Then we cut to him flying down.
To me, the toying of the tie is kind of paying homage, but saying we're better than that. In my opinion,
you're probably
remember
right.
when he used to do that and everyone could see him, but now he doesn't do that because he's smart. But
he's got the glasses still too.
And I don't know if you remember when Tobey Maguire did that in Spider-Man. He was running across the street like, "Hey everyone, look, I'm Spider-Man," and I was like, "This is just as bad as when Superman did it."
Sam Raimi is a big Richard Donner fan, and he actually was paying homage to Superman
and
with that scene.
I think he might have been paying a little bit more than homage if you think about it. look at I just thought about this like about a year ago, and I don't know if you noticed it. The Spider-Man movies are almost parallel to the Superman movies.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
As far as, the end,
At least part 1 and 2.
choose between your girlfriend and the kids.
Mhm.
The end of Superman, he had to choose between the missile going this way and the missile going that way.
Mhm.
Should I remember part 2, Superman loses his powers. Part 2, Spider-Man loses his powers. Part 3, Superman turned bad. Part 3, Spider-Man turned bad. Shouldn't someone be getting sued or something?
Absolutely. I mean, Sam Raimi actually, I think he said it publicly one time that he was a big fan of those old movies.
Oh.
And yeah, he was definitely paying homage. Here's a nerd one for you. And I don't know if any of you guys ever read the Kevin Smith script, Superman Lives.
I heard him talk about it numerous times.
Yeah,
I read the script a couple of times, and there's a scene when Superman doesn't have his powers, right? He's got the Eradicator machine on, right? So he's regenerating his powers slowly, and he's got to train himself. And he goes into a building. It's a burning building, and there's a small child still trapped in there. For whatever reason, firefighters fail at their job, whatever. And he goes in, he saves them, and he gives the child back to the family and the firefighters and whatnot. And they're like asking, "Who are you?" And he's like, "Just tell them I'm back," Nicolas Cage voice. And then the Eradicator flies him off, right? There's a scene in Spider-Man 2, exactly in peril. Exactly the same way. He doesn't have his powers. He doesn't have a Eradicator's suit on.
Yeah.
But it's just Peter Parker going in and saves this little girl in a burning building. It's literally
Explains why I didn't
scene
like
for
those
scene.
movies that much then.
Yeah.
I was never a big Tobey Maguire fan.
I liked it. Did you like Amazing Spider-Man?
With Peter Garfield?
Yeah.
I thought he looked really cool as Spider-Man. I didn't like him as Peter Parker.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess
his name was Peter Garfield?
Andrew Garfield.
Did I say Peter Garfield? Yeah. Oh, I
we
combined
knew
them.
what you meant.
I combined them.
Yeah.
I never really got into him. I thought Electro was fucking retarded. The second one, and Rhino was probably the...
I like the costume for the second one.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
I put Rhino, his appearance in part 2, up with Bane in the Batman movies. Such a disappointment.
Yeah. I thought Andrew Garfield's a very good actor, but...
I didn't like his hair. His hair really pissed me off.
That was... I'm the same way. I thought he was way too pretty boy looking.
At least Toby... pretty boy, but he's got that stupid hair. It's like, what the fuck? Like, you're already, 6 foot tall. Are you trying to be 6'5"?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
But that's the whole point, though. He looked like he was something
you
like
pull that mask off, your hair's not going to be sticking up like that.
Right.
It's going to be all matted down. You're going to be all sweaty because you're swinging around.
But it was so boy bandish, with the hair and his
look. It was
look
like
and style.
Jonas Brother.
Jonas Brother, exactly. But like Toby had the nerd look. That's what I liked about Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
He just looked totally off. But going back to Superman with Donna Justin and stuff like that, I just thought there were so many dynamics they could have done better, and I thought the TV show with Supergirl they did way better.
Okay.
With a lower budget.
I hated that when he was on Supergirl. That was horrible. I thought personally. I was like, this is something Josh would like. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you're right on, man. I posted on Facebook. I thought they're finally getting it right. I think the TV universe for for DC is, I don't watch a lot of TV. I more watch the movies, but I think DC is definitely kicking ass on TV. They've been doing it since Smallville.
Yeah.
And Gotham is doing very well.
Yeah, I'm behind on Gotham, but I know what's going on with the Joker and shit.
Oh, that Joker stuff got so much buzz.
Yeah, they're not even pretending that he's not the Joker anymore.
Yeah.
I think they're just like, fuck it. Like, next season, you're going to have 12-year-old Batman in the full suit and shit.
Yeah.
They don't even give a fuck anymore, I don't think.
They just... But, the whole point, though, the TV stuff is just killing it.
Yeah.
Flash, it's just killing
it.
Why
don't they just have Gotham and Flash crossover, and then, Flash somehow runs to the future.
I think they're in different
and then
channels.
It's different.
I think Fox has Gotham.
They could just bring Batman up to speed.
Although that's what got Supergirl out.
Older actor, and then they could have Batman.
Yeah. Or they just do a time jump in between seasons. Yeah. It just says, 5 years later.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's also there's a time warp difference, too, right?
Yeah, because he's 12, or what is he now? 15?
Who's that?
The Bruce Wayne in Gotham.
He's definitely probably 12, 13 in Gotham. And and also too, I think Gotham's on Fox.
Yeah.
And
everything
Supergirl
else is on CW.
Exactly.
But Supergirl was on ABC, I think. It started on like ABC or
CBS.
CBS, yeah.
CBS.
And then they did that crossover,
Mhm.
and then CBS was like, "Here you go, CW, you can have it."
Yeah,
And then
which is
they
probably a
just moved
big
over to
mistake.
CW. Yeah,
Supergirl was like really popular.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like right behind Walking Dead, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah.
was
I don't
pretty
follow
popular.
ratings, but I know a lot of people that watch it.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty
My only
good.
beef with Supergirl was I was like, oh, I've never really read Supergirl comics, so I can't wait to learn about her.
yeah.
And all they do is keep stealing Superman storylines.
Yeah, they did like
Yeah.
the
Every time I watch it, I'm like, oh, this is what happened to Superman. Oh, this
Yeah.
happened to Superman. Oh, this happened to Superman.
yeah. Kevin Smith just directed an episode. You know what the title was?
But
Supergirl Lives.
Ah,
Yeah.
cha-ching.
Yeah, and she didn't die in it. They just went to a planet where she didn't have powers, and she got back.
I don't know what episode it is, but he also directed an episode of Flash too.
Wasn't that just recent, Teach?
Like probably
It
like last
hasn't-
year.
The one he directed for this year hasn't aired yet, but he directed one last year.
Yeah.
Did he have the Toy Master in that, or can you look up? Find
Oh,
out
that
or
might,
the Trickster, right?
yeah.
Which is basically
It
their
was the
version of
Joker. Yeah.
with Mark Hamill.
So that was called the Trickster.
Mhm.
Like the Puzzler?
Yeah, he's
Question mark man?
he's like a real Flash comic, but they play him off just like the Joker because it's Mark Hamill in the show,
Yeah.
and he just does his Joker voice from the video games.
Got it. But yeah, I definitely recommend reading the Kevin Smith script. You can easily Google it. It's for free.
What's your favorite Superman comic story arc from the comics, not movie wise?
Ah, gosh. I have to get myself refamiliarized with the comics because I've been so glued with the movies. But I mean, if I have to answer that, I would probably say the Death of Superman. I had the novel as a kid,
Yeah.
the thick novel and stuff like that. I even had the issues. I even have lately because I've been going to a lot of comic book conventions because I'm trying to develop a a superhero movie that's in
Yeah.
the DC universe for a little later. But got the Steel stuff.
Yeah.
That there's a lot of potential for Steel to do something a little bit better than what they had in the 90s.
With
Stuff
Shaq.
Like that. Shaq and stuff
Yeah.
like that, you know. But there was so much potential to do with that story, you know, going beyond that. So I guess I would have to say the Death of Superman.
Yeah. All right, Joe, what's your favorite?
yeah, it was Death of Superman.
I think a lot of people would say that.
And that was when I was a teenager, so I mean,
And that was huge.
when I really got into Superman. But one thing I wanted to say about the Dawn of Justice and Man of Steel was, I remember watching the movie 300, and I was thinking, I guess I like Zack Snyder. I don't know. I saw the movie and I was like, this guy needs to do a Superman movie. It was before I ever heard of Man of Steel or anything.
Yeah.
And then he did it, and I think that's why I was just like, this is going to be awesome. And visually it's awesome, and I haven't had really any problems story-wise personally. And I think what it is there's people who know Superman from the cartoons and Christopher Reeve, and then there's the comic book readers, you know?
Right.
And it's like, I go in there and I already know the stories, and I know which ones they're mashing together. I know they can't do like start
page
to
by
finish
page,
Death
yeah.
of Superman or whatever, but I can see the parts that they're getting from that, and then the Dark Knight Returns and all that. So for me, it's so amazing, and I already know what's going on. But I do understand someone comes in that doesn't read the comics is like, what the heck?
Right.
Why is Lex Luthor young with red hair or whatever? Like,
It's like, you know, as a kid, I had a handful of Superman comics and stuff like that, but, you know, I will admit I didn't read them religiously like yourself, you know, except for the Death of Superman and stuff like that. But, you know, it's funny, though. It's just the fact that when you read about an upcoming movie like Man of Steel at the time, I got really excited about it. I thought the imagery in the stills was amazing. There was that scene where he's like right behind like a safe or something like that. If you guys remember that picture.
When he gets like thrown into the
Yeah, but it was just a still.
Yeah.
It was just a poster.
Oh yeah,
type
that
of
was
thing.
like the first picture that came.
Yeah, I thought this looks so phenomenal. I'm like, wow, I cannot wait for this, you know. And yeah, Zack Snyder, not so much 300, but he did Dawn of the Dead. He directed that movie too.
Really?
He did Watchmen.
Yeah, he did Watchmen.
And
Watchmen, I thought
Sucker
was okay.
Punch,
Sucker Punch.
which was terrible.
Sucker Punch wasn't a good movie, but it was still visual.
Oh yeah, visually
Like,
beautiful.
visual,
He
yeah.
just put it on mute.
I mean, it looks like a comic book coming to life.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted. And I had no problem with the stories or following along. I don't know. But and when I go on like Facebook or something, I see people, well, why did this happen? Why did that happen? And I'm thinking, well, it happened because of this, but I know because I read the comics.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm a comic book fan watching a comic book movie, and I know the material. Like,
But it also goes to the point too where it's like that old saying, it looked better on paper than it does on a big screen, you know. But I mean that's hearsay, I suppose. The one thing that makes me like think or not really chuckle but think a little bit is the fact that when the Superman Returns came out, they already announced a sequel for Superman Returns with Bryan Singer directing. It was going to be called Man of Steel, and it was going to be either before or after Dark Knight in 2008.
Okay.
Because Chris Nolan already signed on to produce and co-write, and Bryan Singer already made an announcement. And I think Sean, you mentioned a little bit ago that about Brainiac.
Yeah.
Brainiac was going to be in this, and Brainiac was going to be in this, and they were actually going to take it in like a Wrath of Khan type element. You know, they were going to make it like this real menacing looking character and stuff like that. I think probably towards the end of 2008, if not early 2009, that's when they shelved it.
Yeah.
I think I might have seen like the costume designs for that too.
There might be costume designs, but I know Brainiac was definitely announced. Bryan Singer made a big deal about Brainiac coming in, and it was going to be like a Wrath of Khan type of thing. And I was like, wow, that's going to be awesome. 'Cause I thought Wrath of Khan is a great villain, you know, for like old school 80s type stuff. Just
it's from Star Trek, right?
Right,
Yeah,
Star Trek.
Never watched that shit.
If you watch any Star Trek from the old school, at least watch that one.
Yeah,
just for the villain.
Yeah, if I wanted to stay up late as a kid, I had to watch Star Trek Next Generation with my dad.
Oh, those are
So I was like, either I can go to bed and not be tired and just lay there, or I can stay up and watch this stupid Star Trek show.
That's a good time for you to drink when you're watching this stuff. It's 5 times more entertaining.
I was like 5 years old, 6 years old, so I wasn't drinking for another 2 years.
But like with Wrath of Khan, though, that's one maybe I would recommend just for the sake of the villain. Just watch it for the villain. But my whole point though was the fact that they had this whole plan, and I think it would have made a better movie. I think they would have had something really, really special, and especially you're thinking like Singer's coming right off the success of X-Men.
Yeah.
X-Men United.
You could call it success then.
Yeah. Well, X-Men United, I think, is a great film.
But I think what happened with Man of Steel though is they couldn't make like what you're talking about because now he's the beginning of the DC universe.
Yeah.
So they had to kind of introduce him, and then Dawn of Justice was like, okay, now here's the other Justice League members, and this is what they're going to be going up against. So they kind of used Superman to kind of launch the DC universe.
Yeah.
From what I
with
read about
the
way I've seen it.
Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
Man of Steel. No, you're totally right on that.
Yeah.
I mean, they were after Dark Knight Rises. Yeah, they were starting right over and stuff like that. And which is another kind of weird thing too, is the fact that how Marvel's just kicking ass with everything, with Disney and whatnot. In 1998, in 2008, at the same time, and Joe, I think I sent this to you one time on Facebook.
Is that dick pic or? Oh wait,
that was a private
Superman.
Snapchat.
That was a Snapchat thing.
Get a little cape around his dick.
Yeah. No, there was a script for Justice League.
Yeah.
And it was going to be with the Brandon Routh, Superman, and Christian Bale's Batman.
Oh God, I would have hated that.
And I don't know.
And Ryan Reynolds as Green Lantern, probably. Right?
I don't know. That could have been maybe. But I mean, they were looking into that. That's on, and you can. This is stuff that you can definitely Google.
No, they had a whole Justice League cast. It wasn't. He wasn't in it. Fucking Arnie Hammer was Batman. Who the fuck? TJ, look that up.
Yeah, right here. It was titled Justice League Mortal.
Yeah.
Is what it was going to be called.
They had a whole cast and everything.
Yeah, DJ Cortana was Superman. Armie Hammer was Bruce Wayne, Batman. Megan Gale was Wonder Woman. Adam Brody was The Flash. Common was Green Lantern.
So Adrian Brody's from that HBO show, right?
Adrian Brody?
Yeah.
Adam Brody?
He was also in King Kong.
Oh, Adam Brody.
Adam Brody.
Adam Brody.
Yeah.
He's from that fucking Mark Wahlberg HBO show. Where he's Turtle and
The OC?
they're actors. No, they're actors.
Oh, Entourage.
Entourage, yeah, isn't that the same guy with a curly
Adrian
hair?
Brody, maybe. I'm having a. You might be thinking maybe Adrian Greer.
Yeah, Adrian Greer. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Adam Brody's the guy from the OC. He was supposed to play the Flash.
Oh, okay.
So, but my whole point though was the fact that you already had a Superman film, which was Superman Returns. You had Batman, which was Batman Begins. You had those universes, and you had already established characters. You could have just used them for Justice League. They could have had like a heads up on Marvel.
Yeah.
Before Marvel did their thing with Iron Man, eventually Captain America.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could picture the Brandon Ross Superman with Christian Bale Batman though.
Oh, I totally could.
They seem like two different worlds to me.
That's the whole point. That's the odd couple. That's what would have made it work. Right now with Dawn of Justice, it's the fact that it's because they made everything into like kind of like one world where everything's just dark. Superman's dark. Batman obviously is dark. I mean, that's the only thing that was really good about that movie was Batman. Ben Affleck. He did a phenomenal job with that.
Oh, I think we're gonna have to wrap this shit up. We got people coming over for wrestling. Cool. So, final thoughts,
So
Josh?
I won, or did I win?
I don't think either one won. I'll give the final thoughts. I think it's just, you got the past. The past is the past. Everyone respects that. And now the future is here, and just embrace that.
We should
You can still enjoy the old ones. You can, if you don't like the new ones, you don't fucking like them. So what? Don't watch them. Everyone should be able to have their own version of Superman. We've had 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different Supermans now. There's going to be more in the future. Henry Cavill's not the last Superman.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it'll keep going.
We should do a follow-up episode after Justice League.
yeah, definitely. Let's do
Yeah,
that.
that does.
Cool.
All right, well, thank you, gentlemen. Hopefully Brody's not barking too loud into the mic. And, Joe, you want to plug anything real quick?
We're on another podcast on Never Submit Podcast.
Never Submit Podcast. Joe, you got a show coming up after Thursday?
After this Thursday?
Yeah.
Yeah, February 4th, this Saturday. We're playing at Frank's Power Plant.
Okay, and that's in Bayview.
Yep, my band is called The Neuro.
Check them out. They're a great band. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thanks. See ya.
Cool stuff.
Yeah, I got pee, too.
Grandpa's 2 cents. Old timers, they're in a pinch. I'm a fan of it. Oh shit. Splitting logs, smoking hogs, feeding leftovers. 3-legged dog, I'm a fan of it. Oh shit. One man's trash is another man's treasure. One man's pain is another man's pleasure. If it's out of style, sure drives me wild. I'm a fan of it. Oh shit. Old turntable, vinyl record, hand me down to Black and Decker. I'm a fan of it. Oh shit. One man's trash is another man's treasure. One man's pain is another man's pleasure. If it's out of style, sure drives me wild. I'm a fan of it. Oh shit. Singing hymns